The greatest gift you can give your partner isn't love, it's emotional safety. Because people can still love you and not feel safe with you. They can love you and hide parts of themselves. They can love you and avoid difficult conversations. And they can love you and still feel lonely in the relationship. This is because love and emotional safety are not the same thing. Safety is the confidence that I can be myself with you and not be punished. I can tell you the truth without being attacked. I can make a mistake and I'm not going to be shamed for it. I can share my fears and you're not going to use it against me later. Relationships don't lose intimacy first. They lose emotional safety first, and the intimacy disappears later. The sex disappears later. The vulnerability disappears later. But the first crack in all this happens when partners don't feel emotionally safe. And if you don't know how emotional safety works, you're going to spend years trying to solve your communication problems, but they're actually emotional safety problems. I'm Jenn Pinkerton, and I'm a psychotherapist and a connection expert. I help people stop repeating the same painful patterns and create healthier, more connected relationships where they thrive. So one of the most common things I hear from couples is we don't feel connected anymore. And once I dig deeper, I discovered the connection isn't usually the problem, it's safety. Where connection grows is where safety exists. And without emotional safety, vulnerability is going to be impossible. I've worked with a couple who described themselves as roommates. And there wasn't a lot of conflict. There wasn't much yelling. Wasn't really any drama. From the outside, people thought they had this perfect marriage. They parented together. They managed the household together. They went to work. They paid their bills. They showed up to family events. They were achieving all their goals, but emotionally, they were miles apart. When they started exploring what was happening, something became very clear. The husband had learned that whenever he expressed feelings, they were minimized or dismissed, or maybe even corrected. The wife had learned that whenever she brought up her concerns, he became defensive or emotionally unavailable. So neither person felt emotionally safe. So over time, they just both stopped sharing, not because they didn't care and not because they didn't love each other, but because vulnerability no longer felt safe. People don't stop sharing because they stop caring. They stop sharing because sharing feels dangerous. And that's when I realized something important. Most relationships don't lose connection overnight. It's always losing safety first. And when safety disappears, the connection follows. So one of the big misconceptions about emotional safety is that it means never having conflict. But that's not it at all. Healthy couples disagree. Healthy couples argue. They get frustrated. Somebody hurts somebody's feelings. Emotional safety isn't the absence of conflict. Emotional safety is the confidence that the relationship can survive conflict. And when emotional safety exists, both people trust that difficult conversations won't destroy the relationship. They trust that vulnerability won't be weaponized. They trust that mistakes won't become evidence that they're a bad partner, a bad spouse, or a bad person. They trust that they can bring their fully authentic self into this relationship and still be loved. And most people spend a good part of their lives hiding themselves. They hide insecurities and fears. They hide disappointment. They hide needs. They hide hurt. Not because they don't have those feelings, but because somewhere along the way they learned those feelings were not safe to express. Now, maybe they grew up in a home where emotions were criticized. Maybe they were told they were too sensitive. Maybe vulnerability was met with shame instead of support. And when they carry those experiences into adulthood and unknowingly bring them into all their relationships, we're going to have a problem. And this is why emotional safety is so powerful. You need to have a different experience than what you've always known. You need to allow someone to show you that you can be accepted. You can have needs and still be loved. You can make mistakes and still be valued. And emotional intimacy creates that safety, and safety creates trust, and trust creates vulnerability, and vulnerability creates connection. And connection creates the intimacy you're looking for. And that's the foundation it's all built upon. If you want to understand better about your strengths and weaknesses and areas to grow, I've created a free PRHI quiz. It's the Pinkerton Relational Health Index. This will help you and your partners identify your patterns that create disconnection and the areas that need attention in your relationship. You can download it using the link below. Now, lesson 2 I want to go into is that one of the saddest things that happens in a relationship is that people mistake lack of vulnerability for lack of love. They'll say, he never talks to me anymore. Or she just doesn't open up to me. I don't know what they're thinking. But the problem isn't that your partner doesn't have feelings. It's that they don't feel safe sharing them with you. And vulnerability works a lot like trust. It's there quickly and it retreats quickly. And so they have to take a risk to share with you. And basically someone's asking, can you handle this part of me with care? And if you can meet that with curiosity and empathy and understanding, then trust is going to grow. But if you dismiss it or your defensiveness, that trust is going to shrink. And people will protect themselves. They will stop sharing, they'll stop bringing things up, and they'll stop asking for what they need. And they won't reveal the deeper parts of themselves. And this is because your nervous system has learned that openness does not feel safe. And this is why emotionally safe relationships don't demand vulnerability. They invite it. They protect it. It's fragile and beautiful. And people begin to open up naturally because trust happens when they do. My next lesson for you is that people don't intentionally destroy this safety. They actually destroy it trying to protect themselves. And this is where the DDDEP comes in so much. Defending, denying, deflecting, explaining, improving. And before your partner's even finished talking, you're explaining why they shouldn't feel that way. You're dismissing them. You're defending yourself. You're proving your point. You're telling them what you really meant was. And while you're busy protecting yourself, your partner feels totally alone. And one of the fastest ways to destroy intimacy and safety is to make someone feel like their emotional reality isn't welcome. And we do that through sarcasm, belittling, eye-rolling, or dismissiveness. And then nobody feels safe in an environment where they feel disrespected. Another major safety killer is weaponizing vulnerability. When someone shares an insecurity or fear, and then later it gets used against them in an argument, the nervous system learns something really important. Honesty with that person is dangerous. And once it feels dangerous, vulnerability is gone. You see, emotional safety is fragile. It takes years to build and moments to damage. That's why we have to be so intentional about how we handle the vulnerability of the people we love. So one of the big principles I teach couples is this: connection comes first, correction comes second. And most people reverse the order. They want to fix before they understand. They want to correct before they connect. They want to solve before they empathize. And then they wonder why everyone gets defensive. But human beings don't learn best when they feel attacked. They learn best when they feel understood. And this is where I talk about going to the feeling, going to the real content. It's never about what's on the surface. It's something much deeper underneath the topic. It's not about the dishes or the sex or the mental load. It's something bigger. There could be a feeling of inadequacy or lack of intimacy, maybe about being unwanted, or forgotten text message may represent feeling unimportant. And if you always focus on the content on the surface, you're going to have the same conversations. But when you go to the feeling, you're going to learn what your partner's trying to communicate. And people calm down when they feel understood. And they escalate when they feel dismissed. So one of the most powerful questions you can ask is, what was that like for you emotionally? You're showing you care and you're showing you're interested. And then people feel understood. You know, one of the greatest compliments you can ever receive is not "I love you." It's "I feel safe with you." Think about how powerful that statement is. It means you trust someone with your fear, your struggles, your mistakes, your insecurities, the parts of you that you don't show to anyone else. That's intimacy. You know, you can hear difficult things without being destructive. A safe partner can tolerate discomfort. A safe partner can take feedback without being defensive. A safe partner can sit with someone else's emotions without making the conversation be about themselves. So when your partner comes with you with pain, you don't immediately solve it. It's not your job to convince them they shouldn't feel that way. Your job is to understand. And at the end of the day, every relationship is asking the same question or questions. Is it safe for me here? Is it safe to make mistakes? Can I ask what I need? And the ability to answer that question tells a lot, because people don't connect when they feel criticized. They don't connect when they feel dismissed. They connect when they feel safe. And when emotional safety exists, then trust will grow. And when trust grows, the vulnerability will follow and intimacy will deepen. And that is how strong relationships are built, not on perfection, but on safety. If you love this video, the very next one, I'm going to talk about how to establish that emotional intimacy to translate into physical intimacy, because that's something everybody needs and wants. I might get a little spicy in my content next time if you're ready. So click here and watch that video next.